Mark England, it's already a pleasure and a privilege to be hosting you for this conversation that I give you so much gratitude for encouraging, because it was me doing what I do, spending my coin of enthusiasm, showing love to a guy like Steve Lane and yourself, just in my little way in the comment section, the positive filter of the comment section. And I was magnetized by your part of your conversation about the original sin of coaching,
Mm.
which is one that I have carried with me for some time. And I have reflected on where that comes from. And it's from likely a similar origin as many people of being being punished or being reprimanded or being ridiculed for the right versus wrong dichotomy. And this is a place that I love to commence our conversation. And I share this with people all the time. And I think of you when I do, because the limited language that we have, and I joke with people that I only know two languages, English and profanity. And if I'm going to be fluent in either of them, I got to do my homework. But the prevalence of using words like right versus wrong. And in school, which I was in capital S school until I was 24, just plodding along, doing my own thing. The whole concept of right versus wrong, what we don't appreciate, Mark, or many people do not, is that is associated with being good or bad. The idea of getting something right or wrong on an exam is directly related in our subconscious to, am I right or am I just or am I good or am I wrong? Am I unjust or am I evil? And so that has been a major spell that I've been unwinding and unraveling. And of all the places to start, Mark, I would love if you can track back into your personal story, your hero's journey, and if you can recall what the most liberating spell that you broke for yourself was, or even what was the first one that you feel like launched you into this inquest into how can I wield words in a more powerful way. And with that, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. The most liberating spell. If there has been one, it's not coming to me immediately.
Sure.
Um, I'm gonna let the magic wheels continue to turn on that. Buddy, I mean, you started off with not just fireworks. You started off with, and you took it to the core of the conversation. I mean, the grand finale, final work of the original sin of coaching, good versus good and bad, right and wrong. I mean, that's not a conversation that can be had one time for someone in the coaching space. There's three levels of thinking. Thinking, it's when you do it once. There's considering, that's when you think about something multiple times. And then there's contemplation, that's when you stare at something. That one needs to be stared at. That one needs to be stared at. Coaches, it'd be a good idea to go on multiple slow walks and stare at that. Nope, I don't know one coach that does not bear the scarlet letter of being a smarty pants coach at some point in time. I mean, that's our that's our we're good at making fun of shit that we've done a lot of. That's our name for all the right answers coaches. Smarty pants coaching.
It's an industry term.
Yeah, for sure. Let's make it. Let's shout it from the rooftops, because this one needs to be laughed at a little bit too, because it seems to move things along. A little bit of laughter, making fun of stuff, seems to move things along in its evolution if we open up for it. And yeah, that's that needing to be right. So I don't know what the greatest spell was that I broke. I I do know that it was a very sobering conversation with myself when I asked myself why. It took about 3.5, 4 years of coaching to get to a point where I asked myself, why am I basically obsessed with making my clients cry? Why do I want to break them so bad? And that was a very stiff drink of an answer, which was, well, you're insecure. You're insecure, and that's how you're getting your validation. You're doing that as much for yourself as you are for them. And that is, we didn't get into that particular part of the conversation on the Way Forward podcast. But we did have a conversation about degenerative coaching versus regenerative coaching. There is such a thing. There is such a thing as a degenerative mindset. There is such a thing as a regenerative mindset. That's when everybody around us gets better. Everything gets better. Everything improves. And it can be scaled and gifted to the next generation. Same thing with anything. So, yeah, that was a very important inflection point in my own personal coaching journey. And that helped start the, and because I wanted to be right, I wanted to have all the right answers for my clients because I wanted to be good. I wanted to be a good little boy. And how far back does that fucking go? I mean, do we bring religion into this conversation in the first 5 minutes? Wow.
We do.
Don't want God to hate me. Fuck. That's the negation of all negations. I don't want the creator of the universe to hate my guts.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be right, and then I'm gonna tell people what they need to do. It's ruthless, dude. That is so ruthless.
Oh yeah, the and then the spinoffs of that are, and I'm going to tell people how good I am and show them. And
then they're going to go brag, and it'll be good for business. It's the most powerful coaching session I've ever had.
It's brilliant that you're able to laugh at it because that is the alchemy of it is, because I know, like you said, you're speaking from experience,
hardcore experience, and not to just to put it in reference. Okay, why should I listen to this guy about coaching or words or anything related to that matter? Because that's the only thing that I put myself out to have a professional opinion about. I've been doing it for 19 years full time, ladies and gents. I'm one of the co-founders and co-owners of Enlifted. We certify coaches 10 at a time for the level ones. I've personally certified right around 560 over the past 7 years. I'm over 1,000 workshops given. This is my 467th podcast. There's a bunch of other stuff in there too. And just this is what I have been living, for the past 19 years. And the stuff that I make fun of, I can make fun of it quite comfortably from experience. And that's valuable, in my opinion, and our coach's opinion. Because when it comes to the coaching tech, when it comes to delivery, when it comes to sessions work, I'm the last, that buck stops with me. And yeah, like I said, the stuff we make fun of, dude, I was so wound up. I was so petrified. It was being petrified is worse than paranoid. It's way harder. You think of petrified wood versus just being paranoid. Paranoid, you still got some mobility. Petrified, you're basically just, stiff as hell. I was petrified of not being good enough when I first started coaching. That one took not exactly 10 years, but it was close to get on significantly to get on the other side of. Is anyone ever perfect? I'm not. I don't strive for perfection. And I'm way looser. Here's an example. People used to say in my workshops in the early days, "You're so intense up there." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm intense. I'm cool. I'm intense." Like Dylan from 90210. I'm intense. And then I realized what they were saying. I took off the first two letters. Dude, you're tense.
Yeah.
The original sin of coaching is it's a big deal, and a lot of coaching's methodologies have that baked into the DNA. And so it's really hard to get out of being a smarty pants coach if the modality of coaching supports that or doesn't directly address it, because that one's so, like I said and you said, hardwired into us on a personal, familial, community, cultural, religious level. Of course, it's going to show up in coaching, and it starts with the it starts with the difference between answers and questions. So this is a big deal. So for everybody out there who's coaching or works with people or teaches or has a friend.
I was going to say, or is in relationship with someone. And, yeah.
You have a friend, dude. I was like, raise your hand if you have at least one friend. Hopefully everybody raised their hand. I'm like, well, guess what? At some point in time, you're a coach, because they're going to tell you things.
Yeah.
They're going to share stuff with you, and you can have answers for them. I don't know of anyone's favorite person that has all the right answers, by the way, because those people aren't easy to talk to. Because they're just waiting for a lull in the conversation so they can tell you something. Because there's a directionality to it. Answers push, questions pull. This is a big deal, everybody. Write this down. Answers push, questions pull. Answers, I tell them. Questions, they tell them. That's usually where the conversation starts with coaching. And most people think coaches, that's what their job is to have all the right answers. So not only is it hard baked into all those things that I just mentioned, it's a misconception from the fucking beginning. And my God, does it kill curiosity? It does a lot of things. Thinking that you have to have all the right answers for someone on a professional level is existentially stressful, okay? Because if you really sit there and think about it, are you going to be smarter and more wise than all of your clients all the time about everything? No, you're not. So in the back of your mind, this is bullshit. Take out the this, put in me, I'm bullshit. And I'm bullshit translates to the imposter syndrome, which is a stressful place to live, which traps the breath in the chest, which makes listening go way down. Oh, and if you're just waiting to have all the right answers or share that super snazzy Instagram quote that's going to fix everything, no, it's not. Your curiosity tanks. So you're going to miss important things, windows of opportunity in coaching sessions, because you're off balance, energetically, psychologically, because your breath is up here. So I will talk about, it's not that I will die on this hill, I will thrive on this plateau of helping coaches get their head around this from the very beginning, because most coaches only last 3 months in the game, statistically. Ain't that sad? Most podcasts are dead after 3 shows.
This is my third show.
This is your third show? Cool. I'll get you some more people. Ryan Sprague will be your 4th. I'll call that motherfucker right now.
No, this is. I think this is 124. So and like you, I mean,
good job, by the way.
We'll absolutely punctuate this concept that you've alluded to already, which is, I mean, some people know it as begin with the end in mind. In the same way that you have a much broader outlook. Mark, when you talk about going through these experiences and it takes you 10 years to realize something, or 4 years of this experience and 19 years of doing what you love to do, I know that people, this is me speaking from experience, thinking beyond the fucking terror of fucking up one session defeats more people instead of, okay, if I have a bad session now, one round with a client, one contract with a client, that my breath is up here. I mean, that is not the end of a career. I mean, to think beyond what can I achieve? And I would love your candid feedback on this statement that most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year.
Tony Robbins took that a step farther. And that can kill a coaching career. Not necessarily messing up that one session, just the fear of messing someone up.
Yeah.
What if I make things worse? That's how it shows up a lot of times. What if I make things worse? Who am I to do this work? Why would anyone ever want to coach with me? There's so many other better coaches out there. I've heard them all. I've thought them all. Tony Robbins said people profoundly underestimate, or they overestimate what they can do in a year and profoundly underestimate what they can do in 10.
Yeah,
and dude, there's something about that 10-year mark, man. I didn't commit to this work until 10 years in. And it happened all at once. So you don't know when the paychecks are going to show up. Obviously when you work for yourself, okay? And then also other kinds of paychecks too. You have no clue. No clue. Which is important.
What's another kind of paycheck that you didn't anticipate?
Opportunity. You don't know when opportunity is going to knock on your door and say, guess what? You've put in enough reps. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do this amount of work and then somebody's going to email me on October 21st. And we just had 2 come in today, which is a big deal for us. And here's the backstory. 2015, so talking about CrossFit, 2015, and also showing up, everybody. I mean, I can't stress that enough. Showing up. Show me somebody who will show up and keep showing up. And that's 80% of everything. 2015, this is a cool story. I know cool's an opinion. This is a cool story. 2015, I take a couple of CrossFit classes and I go to my business partner. We've been incorporated for 6 months. And I said, dude, because I knew we were sitting on something. It's like, dude, these CrossFitters, they're different. They have work ethics. They're pack animals. They're adventurous. They have goals and they're problem aware about mindset. It's like, dude, if we could get this in front of CrossFit, because our shit's different, I bet it catches. Lo and behold, very strange series of synchronicities later, 2017, January 20th, I flew from Thailand to LA to go on a podcast called Barbell Shrugged. And when that thing dropped, everything changed for us. We did 2 shows, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Marcus Gursey was, anyway, those guys. And that changed a lot of things for us. Forever. We got introduced to the fitness industry by the best mouthpiece in CrossFit and functional fitness. And a whole bunch of other stuff leads us to going on the CrossFit podcast, which dropped last November. Guy named Pablo from Argentina emails me. He said, dude, great show. I said, thanks. He goes, would you come down to Argentina and speak for at the Latin American CrossFit conference? He goes, what are your rates? I told him what our rates are. And he goes, we've stripped our budget. We've spent our budget bringing this guy in from France, a guy named Daniel Chaffee. Shout out to that fucking dude. And I go, cool. Cover my flight and accommodations and I'll come down there. And he goes, let me check. Came back, said, can't do that either. I said, guess what? I'm coming anyway. So I bought myself a vacation down to Argentina. Very cool. If you're ever in Argentina, watch those people watch soccer. I didn't say watch soccer with them. I said watch those people watch soccer. That's something else. And so we gave that workshop. Daniel Chaffee was there, and he really liked it. He goes, "This is what we've been looking for." I didn't know he was going to be down there. I didn't know who he was. Here's another thing, everybody. This is why you want to go do the workshops. You want to go on podcasts. You never know who's going to listen to the show. You never know who's in the audience, and that right there creates enough curiosity in me to keep the tank at least 80% full. And so he had all the conversations with us, and then we get the opportunity to go speak at the CrossFit owner and coaches conference in San Jose the 2 days before the show. This was last month. We go out there, crush that shit, okay, on stage in front of 330 of the most committed people in the space and everybody at HQ. And we get 2 emails today. So now I'm still riffing on you don't know when the checks are coming. We get 2 emails today that a request to get on a meeting with the entire team so we can get plugged into the regional groups to present for them. And another email came in today. We're likely getting accredited. So our certifications are going to be continued units, coaching units. In order to maintain someone's L3, they have to do shit. And if that happens, then it makes saying yes to whatever the training is so much easier. That was today. I'll keep going. And when you don't have to have all the right answers for people or any answers at all, because and we can pop the hood and talk parts on the Enlifted method. It's built to not have answers for people. It's built to facilitate space and clarity, and help them with their words and their breath, their words, their story, which is, what's more, there's nothing that I can say to someone that will have more of an impact on them than them getting their stories written on paper and getting the breath in there and playing with some of the words and them, they tell them, they make the shifts. So it relieves that unnecessary pressure of the original sin of coaching. It's a big deal. I can't talk about that enough. Negation, acknowledge. Translation, I can talk about this and we'll talk about this for the entire time that I'm on the clock. Yeah. Because I want people to last more than 3 months.
Well, and first of all, it ain't bragging if you've done it. So I say congratulations and keep rolling. And it's the noble work of coaching. I interviewed a gentleman who's been a tennis coach. He grew up in North Dakota, of all places, and in the 70s when even there tennis found its way to boom and made his way down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He's been on the show twice because tennis is a core love of my life, and it's, to me, one of those sports. I mean, yes, of course, I know people playing well into their 80s, and you learn so much about yourself because the team aspect is just you and one other person. It's one of the only sports where you can play mixed. You can play with men and women. There's so many. I have maybe a book we'll see in the works about drawing the parallels to life. Yeah. So, I mean, something, even if it's cliches are true for a reason. But I bring that up to say that on my first 60 seconds of talking to Dave Anderson, who's been coaching developmental tennis, meaning getting kids to play in college and play professionally. I mean, he's world class at what he does. And he says, any coaching is a noble profession. And that was even before I learned about the origins of why we call it coaching in the first place, which I'll certainly kick it to you to enlighten people as to that. And moreover, what I hear from you, Mark, is, of course, this diligence, this consistency that goes to one of my favorite sayings, which is time is also a place, is you inhabit time. is it's not just this thing that marks what we do and okay, did I punch the clock for today, or how long did it take me to do X, Y, or Z. It really is a place where you reside. And I mean, that is the I know you've quoted and are a fan of Alan Watts. I mean, to bring in the element of the present, it is three-dimensional in that respect, that it contains so much of our story just in this moment. It's the only moment that we carry with us. And you can pack a punch in the present moment with presence. And I will always give credit to Mike Salemi, who's been on the show and is someone that I met through. I mean, I've heard him speak enough. I remember he came like you as a visiting master to the group that I was a part of with Jared Picard, Edmund Knighton, which was originally a men's group. And I've implored them to run that back because I mean, it's just different. And I mean, there's so many beautiful aspects that come of making it being human, men and women. I know that men need their spaces to explore. And this wasn't a men's group. I don't know if he's told you much about it, but it wasn't a men's group where you just come and, share your, what's irking you and what you're sad about or what you're angry about. Those things come up. It was in pursuit, as it was explained to us, of self-mastery. And Mike Salemi, being a visiting master, I think he opened our talk with whoever breathes the deepest has the advantage. And I jotted that down while you were talking, to explore for people, for as trendy, and I'm sure you've seen for as long as you've been in these spaces, Mark, how just the different trends. I mean, it was seed oils a year ago, and now it's fascia, and it was core, 6 years ago, and oh shoot, there was one other one that electrolytes. So get this. So this is just a totally random. Electrolytes are super popular.
Does She Legit make an appearance?
She Legit is definitely on the short list.
It's a little more fringe, but like
yeah. But I mean, especially coming out of CrossFit or just in general, whatever people associate with the health and wellness industry, which I know is an industry now, especially now. Electrolytes have been so massive to the point, Mark, where I was walking out of our favorite local cafe the other day, and there was a fucking Capri Sun that is Capri Sun Hydrate with electrolytes. And so I know that we've lost the plot with some of these trends. If
imagine what kind of athlete I could have been if I had Capri Sun electrolytes as a kid.
That's what I'm saying. If that was in your Lunchables, you would have been undeniable, even more so than you already were. So all of that to say, people say, oh yeah, the breath is so important. I'm a breathwork coach and you got to be doing this type of breath work. Great. I have been in pursuit of the first principles and that resilient and relentless curiosity that says, I try to put myself in the shoes of someone who doesn't even know that breath is that important. And I learned from Laird Hamilton, also from the group with Jared and Edmund, that hierarchy of you can go weeks without food, days, it could be months without, up 4 or 5 weeks, something like that, days without water, and if you're lucky, minutes without breath. And we probably have that hierarchy inverted for the most part in terms of people's consciousness. So how do you present to people the essential relationship to our breath? And I mean, you talk about it staying in the chest, you talk about it being locked, you talk about it being inaccessible to people when they need it the most. Because I remember when Mike shared that with us, I knew in my relationship that when I was experiencing charged moments with my love, I don't even know if I was breathing, honestly. So, and that doesn't really promote the opportunity to lean in, ask questions instead of just saying things like, I'm sorry, that sucks, or, whatever. So, yeah, to offer it to you, how do you enlighten people as to the necessity of tapping into having an awareness and a relationship to their breath?
You win the breathing game, you win the whole game. You lose the breathing game, you lose the whole game. Let me stare at which direction we'll go.
Sure.
I'll share 3 stories on this, and then we'll talk mechanics. So there's a guy, Justin Estes, outside of Dallas, Garland, Texas. He owns Garland CrossFit. And I went on a show and talked about the day my father died and me pronouncing him dead and then going to work. And the importance of breathing low and slow. And he listened to that. And he and his wife were in a hospital room, and she was delivering. It was a complicated birth, second child, people running in and out, bells, whistles, commotion, panic. And he's sitting in a chair, and his son is on the floor having a monster freak out. And he remembered that podcast, and he goes, I can say something, or I can just start breathing low and slow and see what happens. He goes, breathing. So he got his breath low and slow in the middle of all of that. And in about a minute, his son calmed down, crawled up on his lap, put his head on his chest, and took a nap in the middle of all that. And he goes, I'm in. He got on a call with me and was like, dude, just sign me up. Here's the magic. Give me the magic. Give me the link. Doo-doos are important. Like poo-poo. Can we say poo-poo?
Yeah.
Poo-poos are important. I was, this is in 2018. I got brought over to do language modules on these very cool yoga teacher training courses. One of them was in all three were Glastonbury. Very interesting place. And so I'm in this room with 40 yogis, and everybody's on their yoga mat, so spaced close together. And we were playing the I can't believe game. So you write down I can't believe and then fill in the blank with whatever. And I get to this woman, very attractive woman, 22, 23, from the Ukraine. And I said, what's your statement? And she said, I can't believe I flew all the way over to the Ukraine and my father wouldn't answer his phone. So they had an estranged relationship. She hadn't seen him in 10 years. And she gets into yoga, and these people were very big on the personal development side of things too. So she's like, I'm gonna reconcile with him. And so she messages him. He's like, yeah, come on. And so she flies over there, and she's got a week with him. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. So she's messaging nothing. And finally she has to go home. Comes back, and she's still pissed. I think it was 3 or 4 years later. And I said, did you fly over there and he wouldn't pick up his phone? And she said, yes. I said, so because you flew over there and he wouldn't answer his phone, can you believe that you flew over there and he wouldn't answer his phone? And she goes, yes. I said, cool. Take out the can't, put in the can. I can believe I flew all the way over to the Ukraine and my father wouldn't answer his phone. And she let out this exhale that was longer than the inhale, so you could tell that she was going parasympathetic. If she had just done this, that tells you one thing. If someone goes, that tells you something else. And so she did that. And then she starts writing. And I'm working with the person right next to her, so she's majorly in my field of vision. Writing. And then her eyeballs get all big, and she gets up and leaves and comes back a few minutes later and sits back down. Starts writing, and does the same thing again. Leaves and comes back during break, and she goes, it's a mediocre. It's a C- Russian impersonation. I'll do it anyway though. She comes up to me. Anyway, she goes, you know, I take out the can't and I put in can, and I say that I can believe, and I take this big breath in, and I have to go make big shit 2 times. I go make big shit. I go make, and I'm just sitting there like trying to keep the professional face on. I'm thinking to myself, this is fucking hilarious. And I'll be telling this, it was almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago. I'll be telling this story forever. People's breath, dude, please. Most people's breath, you can just picture it. I was like, am I dreaming right now? Most people's breath is trapped in their chest. Go ask any yoga teacher. And I'm a big fan of breath work. I'm also a fan of addressing what traps the breath in the first place, which is 2 main things, which is 1, how our parents were breathing. That sets the tone. Our breath is an inheritance. We inherited our parents' breathing patterns, which was a byproduct of the story they were telling themselves. And then from there, it's the story that we tell ourselves. Here's the third story. I get on a sales call with this woman, breathwork coach, and her main question was, will your certifications help with presentation skills? I'm like, yeah, for sure, because there's a significant amount of personal work in these certs, and the second half of level 2 is all about presentation skills and how to build and deliver workshops. And she goes, that's my biggest thing right now. She's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm good at what I do. I'm passionate about it. I believe in it. And yet, when I get in front of groups of people, my breath gets trapped in my chest and I lock up. And, we finished up the particulars, and I was like, hey, we can take a look at that. We got some time. And she goes, yeah, let's do it. And so I asked her to tell me a little bit more about it. She did. And usually with just a little bit of detail of what's going on for people, the energetics of the thing will show up. So she gave me some more details. And then I was like, well, can you feel that pressure in your chest that always shows up when you get in front of people? And she goes, yeah, I can. And I said, cool. When was the first time you ever felt that? Does that take you back to a specific event or time frame? Those are very powerful questions. And if you ask those questions to people, coaches, you better have your breath low and slow, because the emotional heat in the kitchen can and will get turned up just like that. This brings up another important part of the conversation, drama bonding and trauma bonding, which is directly related to how we breathe when we're coaching, clean coaching, answers. We'll get to that in a second when we pop the mechanic, we look at the mechanics of it. And she goes, yeah, when my parents used to fight. And I said, do you remember the worst fight they ever had? She goes, yes, I do. I said, title it, like a title to a movie. The fight at Uncle Steve's house, Thanksgiving 2009. Titled it and wrote it out. Most people don't. She had never titled that and written out. She said, I've journaled about it, but I haven't titled the thing and written it out. So we did, and we 4-stepped it. And essentially that is where you get the story, the scary stories, because people keep the scary stories in the head, out of the head and written out. Step 1. 2, read the damn thing. 3, slow it down by 30%. Because what happens, everybody, when someone slows down their rate of speech, the breath loosens up. When you're helping people change the story they're telling themselves, the breath must be addressed. And then step 4 is read that same story, and at the end of each sentence, you do this. Full in, full out. And it creates very valuable space and clarity about the story. Okay, no answers necessary. And because she had got the story out and zoomed out with the breath, and we teach people how to do that, and then also learn what language patterns are forcing people to script the dreaded victim-villain dynamic. The Lord of the Rings spell, definition of a spell is a word or a combination of words of great influence. The Lord of the Rings spell was just right there. Ray Charles could have seen it. And that's funny. My father spent all of his money on drugs and didn't take care of us. And I had to repeat it. My father spent all of his money on drugs and didn't take care of us. And then I had her scratch out the word us and put in the word himself. It's like somebody smacked her right in the face. Eyeballs got big, head moved back, boom. Waterworks for good reason. My father spent all of his money on drugs and didn't take care of himself. And the whole story went from it meaning not good things about her, so that was all about him. That doesn't have any meaning. That's the greatest of all time coaching question. Since we're talking about coaching, the greatest of all time coaching question is, what does this mean about you? Because we're meaning making machines. And a lot of times it's not the story that bites people in the ass. It's the meaning they assign to it. And the meaning that she assigned to that was everything that her father did and did not do had something to do with her value as a person. So, and that button was getting pushed when she was getting in front of groups of people. And the breathwork coach's breath was getting trapped. So let's address the thing that traps the breath in the first place. And it's usually not lack of the ability to breathe well, because our body is constantly trying to get us to breathe better. The average person takes 200 sighs during the day. And that's because the average person's breath is trapped in the chest. And that's because the average person's language is working against them because they didn't learn this in high school English class. It has nothing to do with intelligence or deservance. It's simply an education issue. And then the fourth story, nobody likes being called a tight ass hole is not a compliment. And I now own it again. I was the first person on the planet to purchase unpuckered.com. I was shocked that I got it. There was some, unpuckered.com. And if I ever do a podcast, it'll be called the Unpuckered Podcast. And, we'll talk about whatever we want. And there was some fraud at my bank. I didn't like how they handled it. So I changed banks and my credit card on GoDaddy lapsed and someone went in there. So I lost unpuckered.com. Rat bastard. Went in and they bought it from under my nose and tried to sell it back to me for $1,500. And I thought about it.
Yeah.
Because I like a good story. I was like, this is worth $1,500. But I held off. And then last October I circled back and I was like, I wonder if they renewed it. They hadn't. So I bought it back from under their nose for $80. I owned it for 3 more years. Reading's important, everybody. That was a lot. Tom Fullry, take us in a direction.
All my interjections are brief before we talk about, and I use this language for teaching tennis. You say mechanics. Mm-hmm. And I love that because I also say nuts and bolts. People throw around, what are the nuts and bolts of it? What are the things that actually uphold this structure that we're trying to build? So before we get into that, my first pivotal question for you, Mark, is do you shit on the inhale or on the exhale?
Exhale.
Really?
Wait, I've got to... No, the inhale. The inhale. I had to think about that. I never thought about that.
Yeah. And it took me listening to someone on Mark Bell. I have a lot of admiration for Mark Bell and the Power Project. Just that's unlocked a lot of portals for me as well in the fitness and health world. And I remember they had a guy on there who asked that question to them. And I mean, the pumping of the breath. I mean, talk about optimal performance, being able to have your vital organs being massage and nourish in the right way, especially during that necessary movement. And I like to say, I borrow this from my friend Danny Cass. I say, I'm not a part of any movements, only bowel movements. Those are the only movements that I really support. The only other one is when the I can't believe it. It's one of my favorite stories to tell for people who know tennis, because tennis self-talk, Mark, especially the stuff that people vocalize, is very unoriginal. I was telling my wife this today. It's like, oh my God, I suck. I should quit. That's so bad. But one of the great stories is John McEnroe, if you've heard of John McEnroe, who was a world-class volleyer and definitely one of the best players of all time. He was playing against someone, and John McEnroe was a net rusher, always at the net, super athletic. And he heard the guy's coach tell him, well, now you need to go to the net, this guy that McEnroe is playing. And most people, they go to the net and they dump a volley and they miss an overhand. And they go, I can't believe it. And this guy comes in first time in like almost 2 hours, first volley, hits it out. And he walks out to the baseline and says, I can believe it. And I mean, imagine if we had that level of healthy, almost instant self-reflection of just to say, yeah, I mean, I just did that.
Yeah.
Instead of, I remember you sharing on Alex's podcast, which was phenomenal, and I've loved sharing that with people, and I'll link to it again because it's worth the reverberations that it gets, the replays that it gets, of a word like incredible. And I hear people use that
Oh
word
God.
all the time in the most inappropriate situations. And it doesn't take much and you don't have to have the 1834 Nathaniel Webster dictionary that my wife got me as a wedding present to know that word means. Oh, it's so fun. It's so special to me to be able to look up a word like that and know that it means truly unbelievable, without credibility, incredible. And so, I mean, if there's a question in there, Mark, it's,
oh shit,
where do these spells come from? I mean, why are we so hell-bent on deceiving ourselves into saying things are unbelievable, incredible? How has that leaked into our lexicon? Or I mean, and we're solutions guys, so how do we undo that?
I don't know how it got molested.
As a first spit take on the show, you say molested?
Molested, yeah.
Yeah.
Molested, which means to disturb.
Yes.
I don't know how our language got so disturbed. I mean, it was either there's something there's something with youth that likes to rebel and potentially invert things,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so they can feel a sense of individuality and, you know, you know what? I bet the Native American Indians didn't do that. I bet they didn't molest their language because they had, we're workshopping this idea real time. I'd never thought about it because they had rites of passage and they didn't need to rebel against their culture in order to prove themselves. They had plenty of other opportunities. Okay. War, battle, go sleep outside by yourself when you're 13 up in the mountains for 3 days. And if you come back, you're a man. If you don't, we'll find your bones. You know, sick used to mean sick.
Yeah.
Killer used to mean not good, like, you know, bad. That's man, that's bad. I'm just talking about, like, you know, back when I was a kid.
Yeah.
The use of language, the amount of words that we are subjected to on a daily basis. I don't know what that number is. I'll guarantee it's a lot more than people 500 years ago. Okay. Because I can listen to a podcast and then put on another podcast and put on another podcast and fill the dead space, fill the dead time. Okay. I talked about this on Alex's show, the Donner Party. That was a total disaster. You know, if you don't know what that is, look it up. And one of the survivors wrote her sister back in Virginia and said, the letter had four sentences. Stay at home. You have a good life. Do not travel. You do not know what trouble is. The Donner Party, they got snowed in up near Truckee, near Lake Tahoe, for an entire winter, and half of everybody died and the other half ate people. It's cannibalism. Charming. And so it's lesson 17 of Enlifted Coaches Essentials.
Yes.
One of our, we go, because we're talking about the blown outness of language. I did not know that incredible meant no credential. What did it mean again?
No credibility.
No credibility.
Truly unbelievable.
Truly unbelievable.
Truly
Yeah. So people
unbelievable.
talk about incredible sushi, like a mind blowing croissant, and when we're talking about that, moderate, always and never. There's a real easy one. Very rarely something always or never. Most of the
Yeah.
time, here's the scale, everybody. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Most of the time, it's going to be between rarely, sometimes, and often. And so you want to tone down the use of your language. So when you need to say something important, you've got your powder's dry. My mother never cussed, except for a handful of times. And when she did, everybody just you paid attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go, yeah, your dinner party wasn't a total disaster. The Donner Party, on the other hand, now that was a total disaster. And deadpan and went straight to the next.
I bet you and Jared get along famously. In
Oh,
fact,
dude.
I know you do. I mean, that's just
Dude. Deadpan's hard, everybody. Leslie Nielsen is the GOAT.
Oh, yes?
Leslie Nielsen. God rest his soul. He is the greatest of all time when it comes to deadpan. Airplane movies, Naked Gun, 33 and a third.
Can I step into the batter's box on this one?
Dude, please.
Just for a moment?
I'm over here just talking.
Well, but again, because I am intrigued by a truth sense around how sensationalism comes from, of all the things, Mark, that we can ascribe to the absolute poverty of rites of passage or significant moments in life, stopping to breathe through them, stopping to recognize and reflect on them, not only with ourselves, among other people, elders. And I'm intrigued by the idea that part of that sensationalism, that rebellion, sometimes inversion. I've noticed this with little boys, and I do my best to give them some grace if I have little kids on the tennis court. And it's usually the boys, talking 6, 7, 8 years old, will boldface lie to me or exaggerate of I just watched you hit that ball at that kid. No, I didn't. And I just don't know if it's little boys being little boys or and again, I mean, not the kind of boys that would have a rite of passage at that age. All that to say, I can see why if you don't have the perspective, the appreciation of what it really means to go through something life altering,
Yes.
life affirming. When you talk about words like "oh, I killed" or dead or bomb or anything like that, there's a lot of anti-life language that, and not to get all new agey about it, it's just I've left a lot of that stuff behind, is because I
you thought
do
about
my
it.
best. Yes, and when I know better, I do better for the most part. I do my best to honor that, and I see that, and I'm someone who didn't really have any. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and some of the sacraments are rites of passage in a way. I know they have their significance, and I'm grateful for those in a way. Nothing as a 18-year-old man or 16-year-old man or anything like that, and I can absolutely see how that would open up the boundless opportunity to sensationalize, exaggerate, overstate, or to speak in extremes and hyperboles. I do my best to stay away from always and never. Even with things like oh, you always got to go in on this kind of ball. Well, I mean, there's definitely a few exceptions out there. And so, yeah, that seems like we'll keep working with that frame, that we lack that perspective. We lack that appreciation to then ground our language in a much more reasonable. Doesn't mean we can't be beautiful and expansive with our language, but it's just a lack of awareness to say something is always or never, or total disaster is such a good one.
Dude, that's
Unforgivable. Unforgivable is a good one.
The comfort crisis comes to mind.
Mm.
You somebody who's really soft, like they've never, people that have been through hard stuff, they tend to be more measured with their words. And how easy is life these days, everybody? Dude, how easy is life these days? I mean, compared to just 200 years ago, 100 years ago. And it now, we're again, I've never talked about this in detail and in this way. Where does that come from? Where does the embellishments or the blown outness, the over exaggeration, the and I'm not saying in a mean way. I'm saying the lack of consideration. I'm going to consider these words. That just the dude. One of our coaches. I think it comes from. I say think consciously. I'm going to noodle on this. It's a strong think. One of the things it comes from is the cushiness of life. I was talking to one of our coaches about 6 months ago. He goes, dude, I was thinking, man. He goes, I've said things that would have gotten me actually killed 100 years ago. Yeah. I've said things that would have gotten me killed. And I thought to myself, I was like, I have too. You call somebody yella, you're a yeller. Call somebody yellow, which is a slang term for a coward. 150 years ago, and it's your ass or theirs. Someone's going to get hurt or dead.
Yeah, very, very limited feedback that you get with most of, and this goes even beyond comment sections and all that. But that's true. Is that level of accountability for being able to say anything and I find myself often these days saying it doesn't have to be this way. It just takes pattern interrupters and course correctors who are willing to say, well, do you really mean that? Or what do you mean by that? And you can do it with a smile and just give people that challenge. Like, to say something, what they did was unforgivable. Really? Is it that bad? Is it that bad?
It's so dramatic. It's what we call them dramatic. So we used to,
yeah.
I gotta go do a podcast.
Yeah. That does sound dire.
Yeah. I mean, you can say, my dad grew up in a coal mining town in deep Appalachia. And one of his distant uncles, cousin, something like that, was I forget his name, but his nickname was Hawkbill because he carried a Hawkbill knife. And there was a guy in town that they had an argument, and they agreed to never speak to each other again. And they passed each other on a road, and I forget which one of them spoke. Hawkbill pulled out his Hawkbill. Dude pulled out a pistol, and they got to wrestling. And gun goes off, and the guy accidentally shoots himself in the leg. And the police showed up, put both of them in the car, and took them to the hospital. And that was that. Accountability. If you're going to say something, you got to back that up. Now we have cyberbullying. It's an interesting phenomenon. The process of domestication. Not good things happen when things get domesticated.
Not full on, and I'm grappling with this as we speak, because some of the circles that you and I are connected to seem to have something of a fascination with what is primal or what is ancestral, and there is that. I see it. I was talking with someone on the show about this. It's a pendulum swing. It's something of a phenomenon that is to be expected when people are confronted by such extreme examples of tyranny and deception and domestication, modernization. And so people will think that the answers are then to swing all the way in the opposite direction. And I can't imagine that it's really only like that, that it is just such a whiplash of options. It's another dichotomy to say it's either ancestral. I mean, people I was taught, the likes of Paul Chek, is that with something like movement and working out, since you're probably not living outside day in and day out, and you're not uh, ch- felling trees and hunting and things like that. Your time in the gym doesn't have to replicate that exactly. But having a relationship to primal movements, and if you want to sling some iron, that's great. You can have a foot in both. It's not dissimilar from the and a couple of my terrain friends were just speaking about this, and it's given me a lot of food for thought to think of what we have as a potentially overreaction to the tyranny of modern medical systems. And I talk about systems. I don't necessarily blame people. I have doctors who are loved ones of mine and friends and family, and I trust that their hearts are in the right place. To then swing all the way to the other extreme and say, well, every single thing that happens to you, every single symptom, every single expression of disease, and everything that nature potentially inflicts upon you, as someone who suffers from poison ivy, is the bane of my existence. And I try not to take that shit personally. It's really hard, when I'm, 10 days into, tearing my skin open at night and hardly being able to sleep and tingly shit like that, to think that this is happening for me. All that to say, I'm seeking that mesh, that balance of, especially in terrain. And this is actually, Mark, where I appreciate a lot of your approach, because the philosophy of terrain is the idea that it is incumbent upon you, the responsibility, your ability to respond to your environment, to your challenges, to your times of ease, your times of peace, your times of heightened stress, whatever that is, and keep a fairly flexible, fluid balance will then help you become more resilient and regenerative. Whereas if you are expecting a fixed state and then a pill for every ill, and that you always need an external solution, that leaves you highly vulnerable. And I'll direct this back to you, because some of the nuts and bolts that you employ involve removing certain language, and and you can talk me and the listeners through it. The idea of, for the example that you gave of, my father spent all his money on drugs and didn't take care of me or us, and you supplant that with him. The idea of fault versus responsibility is, whose fault is it versus whose responsibility is it to come up with a solution. I think about this with our words. The more that we lie, especially the verbal lies that we concede in talking to others, it's really hard to keep track of ourselves. It's really hard to remain in honor and honesty and health if there's no accountability for it. If you can say something that is not the truth, and capital T truth can be elusive, but if I was late for our podcast because I was taking a nap and I say, oh no, sorry, I was coming from an appointment, it makes it really hard for me to keep track of myself. And no one's going to hold me accountable to that except for me. And so that really is where the health journey begins and ends, is the radical level of responsibility that we take to be as connected to our terrain as possible. Some things escape us, or we don't have the depth of experience. And that's why bringing in a coach, someone who can, through a line of questioning and deep intimate curiosity, can help us explore that for ourselves. That's highly valuable. As we then start to play with our meaning of our stories, what are some of the nuts and bolts that you bring into? Because I've heard you do it before. Sometimes it's instead of me, it's a this, or instead of me, it's him. I'm sure there's a lot of fluidity to that. But what are some of the mechanics that you use in terms of the rewording and the four-stepping?
Yeah, so we can sum up what we do at Enlifted in one sentence. We four-step stories and we play with words. And the amount of times that somebody has come up to me and said, you said maybe. you said never to use soft talk. I'm like, I never fucking said that shit. Or you used a negation. You said can't. You said never to use a negation. I was like, I never said that either. What we teach at the very core, it at the very core of the whole thing is awareness and creation. That's it. Awareness and creation. So let's raise our awareness of what words we're using and then create what you want. And if somebody wants to light their world on fire with a victim mentality, cool. You think I'm going to care about something that you don't for you? Not on your life. That's your business. And so to preface that, people can use as much or as little soft talk as they want. And 39 out of 40 times when people look at soft talk keywords in their language, they would prefer to take it out. So there's 4 pillars of conflict language. Conflict language in the Enlifted method used to be called victim mentality language. And we're like, it's a little too strong of a place to start. Let's just call it conflict language. It works. Conflict language is the language patterns that people use to script the different varieties and flavors, and there's plenty of them, of the victim mentality. First pillar is soft talk. Here's the soft talk keywords. And it's also the place to start the conversation because most of the time, I say that consciously, it's the easiest to address because all you got to do is take it out. And people have usually very low emotional attachment to them. Think, might, maybe, sort of, kind of, possibly, perhaps, guess, hopefully, one day, try, should, could. Those are the main ones. Then you
almost like is one of my favorites.
Dude, almost like.
It's almost like.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. He held up a soft talk keyword sheet. It's almost like I'm overthinking things. Yeah, and so what that does is that's a main driver. That's the main driver of people's indecision and anxiety, which creates overwhelm. Nobody likes that. Well, most people don't like that comparatively. And then we have negations. Negations, that's how people worry. Okay? That's how people worry. Don't, can't, isn't, not, won't, shouldn't, isn't. Did I say that again? I can't keep arguing with my wife all the time, which forces me to stare at a picture of me arguing with my wife all the time. I don't want to come on to Tom's podcast and sound like a Muppet. I just made a picture of me on your podcast sounding like a Muppet. I'm not going to the bar tonight and drinking too much. The first thing it's so basic. It's so basic. And relentless. My driving teacher said when I got in the car, look where you want to go because you're probably going to go there. So that's how people worry. The fancy term is catastrophize. So instead of, okay, I'm not going to the bar tonight and getting shit-faced drunk. Okay, well, if that's what you're not going to do, what do you want to do? I want to go to the bar and have a glass of wine with my friend and leave by 8:30. I can't keep arguing with my wife so much all the time. That's what you can't keep doing. What can you start doing? Well, I have to think about how I'm going to use my words. So, and because you do, because it's not as easy as just taking out the can't, but you got to, because the whole rest of the sentence is going to change. And so it could sound like I can let my wife finish her sentences. I don't want to run over my Starlink with my truck. Well, that's what you don't want. There's a reason we're laughing about that. If that's what you don't want, what do you want? Park where I should park. Then we have projections, projection keywords. This is where the venom lies, a lot of the venom. He, she, they, people's first names, mom, dad, the government.
Yeah.
She won't let me live my life versus I won't let me live my life. I mean, those are very, very, very different worlds to create with words. Yes. He's wasting my time versus I'm wasting my time. Who wastes more of our time than us? It's not even close. Give me the government.
Yeah.
The government. Blame something on the government.
They in general, and that's a spell even in the truther space that I do my best to pry apart is which they? Is it the Jews? Is it the Jesuits? Is it the Clintons? Is it, let's get specific, and then the reptilians, whomever. And it still almost doesn't matter if it's going to really throw you off your center and totally disempower you from looking where it is that you intend to go.
Yeah. The Jesuits, I'm sorry to break this to you, everybody. The Jesuits did not make you eat all those Krispy Kreme donuts.
No.
The reptilians did not make you skip your workout.
They didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and so it's going from projective to reflective. The way the English language is used, generally speaking, it's externalized, projection, vague, always, never, incredible. I guess I might actually be kind of sort of blaming her for a bunch of shit. You say that, you don't have to go anywhere near addressing that. Okay, it's a get out of jail free card. Some people do it consciously, and that's cool. If you want to do that, do that. Like, cool. Which brings up clean coaching. We can talk more about that in a second. And it's externalized, vague, and inflammatory, and there's a way to architect language so it's reflective, specific, and anti-inflammatory. Psychological and emotional inflammation is a very real thing. Psychological and emotional indigestion is a very real thing. Both of them have the breath trapped in the chest. Have your breath trapped in your chest. You eat a bunch of food and then watch what happens. It's not like that. No. It's, dude, so many things get blamed on not blamed on their, how do I say this? So many things are just, it's just simply bad breeding. I suffer from social anxiety. Oh, you mean you're holding your breath in your chest when you walk into a room? I've got ADHD. I bet your breath is trapped in your chest and you're off in la la land, super distracted because if someone's present, they're breathing low and slow. I suffer from premature ejaculation. That's because you're in your head about the whole thing and you're holding your breath.
Yeah.
Like nobody likes that shit. Nobody. Get your breath low and slow and walk into a room. Just like Mike Salemi said, the person that breathes the deepest, they set the tone, they win. Go on stage and give a presentation and get your breath low and slow and watch how much you enjoy being up there, which besides having quality material to talk about, that's the greatest gift that you can give your audience is you enjoying being up there. That's half the magic, everybody.
Yeah.
Get your breath low and slow and have a fun night with somebody you think's hot. Watch what happens. And just on and on and on. I gave Alec my second copy of the DSM-5. It's 1,000 pages of 11 font. The DSM-5, everybody, is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, Volume 5 for the American Psychiatric Conversation. And it is a big fat book of spells. And a lot of those truly, truly made up conditions could either be successfully addressed or eliminated with better breathing.
Oh, I feel like he's going to put that to good use, especially with his connections. And when you say spells, I mean, are we talking about conditions that are... Yeah, so just explain that more, because I think I follow you. Just
labels.
These are psychiatric labels.
Labels. So if you want, it's at the same time, and the good stuff usually is comical and infuriating. Look up the history of the DSM-5. And I mean, this to say that this has had an impact on culture that's an understatement of the year. I mean, the amount of people that are medicated and over medicated because of labels that people just made up.
And with non-specific or exclusive symptoms. This is the case.
It's so complicated. It's so complicated. And that's part of the magic spell. Complicate, confuse, and control. Complicate, confuse, and control. Complicate, confuse, and control. There's a lot of definitions of mindset out there, everybody. I sat down and read 143 in one single sitting. I didn't read them all. And and shout out to Enlifted. We've got the best definition of mindset in the game. It's the story that you tell yourself. And for instance, the criteria for selective mutism in children, which is page 222 in the DSM-5, it is so complicated and up for interpretation that, I mean, it's easy to take advantage of people like that. It's easy to take advantage of people like that. And people, and smart people are some of the most insecure people on the fucking planet, man. They'll do anything to have other smart people think they're smart. And a lot of the stuff in the DSM-5 is just some motherfucker that's good at taking tests, because that's what a lot of people that are identified as smart are. They're good test takers. They don't rock the boat.
I'm inspired to share this story, which I've told a few good friends, and there's no reason not to tell it here, because for years, especially, and I feel like many people go through this arc, whether it's because of their introduction to health freedom or conspiracy or whichever door people walk through, you get to a point where you feel special because you feel like you know more than the normies. And I mean, that sort of arrogance never attracts anybody to be more curious and open with you, especially if you're, don't you know, especially if that's the kind of energy you bring anyway. Dude. And as I'm sliding down the other side of that hill, I revealed to my wife. Well, thank you. I mean, it's still a slow slide, to wit. I share with my wife, I say, hon, I for a long time now, I have resented the fact that I've really never heard anyone tell me that I'm intelligent or smart. As good a wife, oh my gosh, what the fuck is wrong with you? How dare you think that about? I say, I know, it's ridiculous. It's just, I see some people out there who I know on paper, or they've got some letters after their name, or they went to this school, and it really doesn't tell the whole story. And yet I know people say that they're smart. So we have a good chat about that. I'm in a great place. About a week goes by, and we have people who come and pick up our yard waste in the fall. And if you put them in barrels or in some sort of container, they'll take away all the leaves. This is a little while ago now because we try to save some of that stuff. And they end up taking our wheelbarrow that I had put a bunch of yard waste in. A wheelbarrow is like $200. It's no joke. And I come in and I say, babe, shit, I'm sorry, but they took the freaking wheelbarrow away with the trash. And she looks at me with a wry smile and she goes, hey, babe, you're real smart. And there's a version of me who can defend and deny and reject, but all you can do is laugh.
Right.
And well, it's not all you can do, because again, people will, when confronted with maybe you missed the plot here. Owen Benjamin, who's someone I give a lot of love and admiration to on this show because of him being a pattern interrupter, he says that his mantra is, I might be wrong, but I'm not lying. And if you operate with that ethos, then being wrong is okay. If you miss something here and there are a lot of smart people, Mark, who operate with some of the ethos of like, I'm not wrong and I might be lying. I mean, there are some brilliant people out there, as we have seen, who do just that. And the spells are, you need to believe them because XYZ. I got confronted with this by a loved one the other day. Who are you? Who are we to question a scientist or a doctor? And I say, I'm a man. And that's all I need.
A lot of intelligent people, quote unquote, smart people, by conventional standards, are so terrified of being wrong. They're so terrified of being wrong. I was terrified, and I don't. I have my superpowers, and conventional intelligence is not one of them. No, I'm serious, and I'm thankful for that. I struggled massively in school for a couple of reasons. I get confused easily about certain when it comes to certain things. I'm gullible when it comes to certain things, and when it dawned on me that this can work to my advantage, I was just thinking to myself, "Oh hell yeah!" And I was like, "Well, how could it work to my advantage?" And that extrapolated into Enlisted, where the whole thing's built to not have any answers for people, because I know that I'm not smart enough to have answers for people. There are certain people in the space, coaches in the space, that are really good at having answers for people. Even if I wanted to coach like that, I couldn't do it. And when I recognized that and got clear and honest with myself about that, big time weight off of my shoulders, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one of my superpowers is I underthink things. A lot of smarties out there overthink things. And I've seen a lot cooler things happen for people that underthink it and go. Underthink it and win. Overthink it and lose. That's a real thing. And if you combine underthinking with low and slow breathing, because breath trapped in the chest, that's a very noisy place to reside. It creates extra tension and stress in the body. It's called amygdala hijack. It's a fancy word. When someone is in a stress state, breath in the chest, they get tunnel vision. They get focused in on something. It's very myopic. Their listening skills tank. Their creative faculties tank. And it's also very, very noisy because the story speeds up. The story speeds up. And the faster the story goes, the harder it is to control. And so you've got somewhere between stagnation and paralysis. When you get your breath low and slow and keep it there, you are more sensitive. And I'm not talking about being sensitive in the negative emotional context. I'm talking about sensations. You're able to pick up on other information, also known as intuition and instinct. And as you get older, hopefully, and you build experience with things, pattern recognition, and if you keep your vessel somewhat clean and healthy, you can use those. You can look at something and breathe and get a pretty good read on it and make your decisions from there and take action. Action dispels overwhelm. Who said that? Malmodis. He said, "I prefer the fear of being wrong. No, I prefer the fear of making the wrong decision to the terror of indecision." And I know people with degrees that are so shit scared to put themselves out there and be judged, and it's well, sad and funny. I'm not above laughing at people. I'm not above laughing at people at all.
Like, no, it's the cosmic chuckle of like, I fucking feel you, and you know, when you have the benefit of the perspective of what could be, you know, how to transmute that. And I tell people on the tennis court, Mark, is when I see, and especially at this level of club tennis, there's lots of time. I think the time span between a pro ball is just under 2 seconds, so not a lot of time. It's longer than that when you're playing rec tennis, and people being plagued by indecision of what do I do with this one shot, and they have 4 different ideas and then they dump it in the net. And I say indecision is worse than indigestion, because then you don't even know what to eat. You know, you can't even pick something to eat, you know. So that really is the worst of it. What also comes up, Mark, when you talk about thinking in this way, and even though you may describe it as underthinking, what I've learned from someone like Edmund Knighton through the tutelage and the lineage of Steiner principles is that what we call thinking now is intellecting, or to use a Paul Chekism, mental masturbation. How many times can I keep jerking this thing around in my head so that I can just hold on to it as long as possible without there actually being, you know, the type of procreative or creative stimulus to then go do something about it, which usually requires or invites simplification. What is the simple? And I love my wife for this, because she is a simplifier. If you cannot describe it to me simply, I really don't want to hear about it.
Dude, yeah, and I mean, part of what overthinking is a protection mechanism, because if you keep thinking about something, then you never have to decide and make a decision and take action and then risk failing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I mention that I ran over my Starlink?
you mentioned it to me several times.
Yeah,
but
yeah. So here's the story.
People get some inside baseball from Mark.
It's relevant. I'm down here on our property. We've got a range down here, and I was shooting with some friends. This was last week, and I'm about 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, a 3-minute drive up there. I'm on for a workshop for 50 CrossFit gym owners. And I drive up there, and the grass hadn't been cut, and my truck's lifted, and I just couldn't see it. I just ran right over it, smushed it. And so I usually have Starlink out here. So I'm hotspotting. Tom Foolery and I get on. I'm hotspotting in the kitchen of the farmhouse, and it sucks. And so I go outside and we try it again, and it still sucked-ish. And so then I drive down to the bottom. I mean, there's no buildings around, like we're completely secluded. And so I'm hotspotting off of my phone. Here's the drum roll. I've probably got 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Of battery left on my phone. I'm glad I checked it.
Me too.
Otherwise, I'd sit here and talk for, how long are your shows normally?
90 minutes is kind of the floor, and I've been in that 2-hour range. So, I mean, it's however it flows, and there's no expectation, but that's a good heads up to land the plane here.
Cool.
And I mean, it's been outrageous fun.
Super fun, dude.
Being
fun
able to, funny. I mean, and well, you bring that. I mean, you make it easy and fun, because we're talking about something that is so alive for you, and there is truly abundant, limitless energy for that, only because it's been something so relevant for me lately. I don't know if you have any love for the Dune books, if that's been part of your life at all. Any Have you read any of them before?
I have not read the Dune books. I watched my sister getting completely engrossed in them way back in the day, but the movies are incredible. And everybody goes, "Oh, but you got to read the books."
It is cliche because it's true. Because
Yeah,
the books have a depth of parallel threads of philosophy, religion, politics, relationship, power dynamics. And it's just one that I pulled. And if you had 60 seconds to rant and riff on this, or even just give it a nod, the quote is from the third book. And it says, if you believe certain words, you believe their hidden arguments. When you believe something is right or wrong, true or false, you believe the assumptions in the words which express the arguments. Such assumptions are full of holes, but remain most precious to the convinced. How would you draw a connection to the remedies you provide in the enlifted method compared to that, which is what most people experience? The hidden assumptions in words and therefore the stories they create.
it goes back to something you said earlier about people getting into the health and wellness and sovereignty space, and this pendulum swinging way back over here, and I've done that multiple times. And the most fun place to reside for me is by not taking a side, by unlocking my breath and zooming out and observing things. And if you do that for long enough, you'll see one of the most fascinating phenomenons in the human experience, in my opinion, which is how language influences people. First and foremost, yourself. You want to slow the story down, everybody. Slow, unlock your breath, slow the story down. It's a feedback loop. Slow the story down and you'll unlock your breath. And and that quote right there, I would need to read that a few
Yes.
times and really sit with it. Um, there's a lot to that. I didn't understand half of it, and
I
I'm
know that
okay
was
with
a.
that.
I know you are. I mean, I get.
Yeah,
We've done so much lie. Like this was two guys fleshing a lot
riffing.
of things for the first time. Especially this is our first time being able to connect in this way, and that's the most fun way to do it because that's where all the magic is doing
Yeah,
it
for
live
sure.
and having it be authentic. If we can get three quick hits in,
Let's
this
do
is
it.
home court health. So, what's something you've done lately for your home that has just enhanced your the tranquility and the regenerative properties of being at home?
Sleeping on a futon, hard mattress.
Fun. Is there a court or arena or field of play where you're challenging yourself right now and you feel like an athlete again? I mean, I know you are an athlete, but
On stage.
and for your health, what is something you've started doing or stopped doing that you are fairly sure has already produced some fruits to keep you healthy and happy?
Taking those hydrogen pills. Putting the
Molecular
hydrogen pill
hydrogen,
in I think so. The Gary Brecka,
the
he talks about
t-
them a lot. Yeah,
tablets.
yeah.
Yeah,
The,
yeah,
the, the tablets, the fizzies. I got
yeah,
a
yeah.
couple of those hydrogen water bottles when they first came out, and I'm like, this is interesting. Um, and then I found that I wasn't using them very much because there wasn't, at least the ones I had, they were small, and and you had to wait for 15 minutes, whatever. And these, you just
Yeah.
put them in there, and I can tell, something fizzy. It's like it's
It's playful.
easier to drink. Now, that's not quite the right way to say it. I mean, I know electrolytes are got everybody thinking about hydration and everything. My body is soaking it up more. I can tell.
We are the greatest experiment we'll ever have.
Oh, shit.
Thank you for circulating your labors of love. I'll say congratulations already for the next 31 years that you have ahead of you, one day at a time, one conversation at a time, one thought that turns into a word. And it is deeply impactful. And I'm speaking personally. Thank you for the gifts you've given me, the insights you've shared with me, the questions that I continue to dance with on a daily basis through Enlifted Essentials. And I'm just elated to have had this time with you and to then bring this to the people in my life. So thank you, Mark, for being my guest today.
My pleasure.